Hey, what's up, guys? This is John with Super Deformed Gamescast, and we're talking this Sunday with a couple of bros from Gamesradar. And this is actually really, really cool for me because I've been a fan of Gamesradar for a long time, and I've been a fan especially you two individuals for a long time, along with Susan. Susan actually introduced me to Anthony here at PAX East. Hold on, now I got myself talking in my ear. Okay, let me mute that. All right, there we go. I don't know why that happened. But anyway, for anybody watching who does not know who you two are, Tony, why don't we start with you? Go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Hello, everybody. My name is Anthony John Agnello. I am the senior social editor at Gamesradar. I have been writing about games professionally for, holy shit, 10 years now. I've been doing this for a decade.
Life catches up to you quick, man.
Yeah, Jesus Christ, that is bizarre. But I've slung words for Gamesradar, for Joystick, when that was still a going concern, the Onion's AV Club, and a number of other sites. And yeah, I'm here because Final Fantasy 15 is freaking awesome.
Yes, it is.
John and I were yelling at each other in a hallway at the Boston Convention Center about how that game was amazing. Yeah, people were walking by. It's like, this story sucks. Be like, you suck.
Somebody actually walked by and said, "Final Fantasy X is better." No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. But no. Let me go ahead. Just in case, no, Final Fantasy X is not better than Final Fantasy 15. In fact, I think Final Fantasy X is objectively one of the poorer Final Fantasies. But we'll get into that. We're gonna say some. I imagine for any Final Fantasy fans who might be watching this, and I know there are a few. We're going to say some fairly controversial things.
You just do the Titus laugh in their face as they walk by, right? This is Final Fantasy X.
I'm responsible for putting Lightning Returns above Final Fantasy X. Not only that, I put Lightning Returns in the top 5 all-time Final Fantasy list.
Careful, man. That's going to get you doxxed in some circles.
Come at me.
People are going to come at you after that, man.
It's fine. Crystal Chronicles is better than 10. I'm just gonna put that out there too.
This is getting real, man. This is getting real. And we've got David Roberts as well, man. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself real quick, even though I just kind of did.
Yeah. Okay, I'm David Roberts. I'm a staff writer for Gamesradar. I've been writing for them for 3 years. That's kind of where my professional career started. Wrote for Gaming Trend for a couple years before. I don't know if you've seen an article on Gamesradar about Metal Gear Solid or Final Fantasy in the last 2 years, it's probably me because that's all I talk about. Nice. Anthony knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah, didn't you technically write 20,000 words about Metal Gear Solid 5?
Yeah, the year that the year that Phantom Pain came out, I wrote a book's worth of articles about Metal Gear and that game in particular. I wrote a 4,000-word plot synopsis that Susan, I believe she has PTSD from it now.
Yeah, that's accurate.
Editing that. Yeah.
All right. Well. Yeah. Okay, sorry. That beer went down the wrong pipe, and that is not a pleasant sensation. Ooh, and it's chocolate peanut butter stout too, that's an interesting feeling in my lungs. All right, so Final Fantasy 15, a controversial topic for Final Fantasy fans. Going by the Metacritic score, the lowest reviewing Final Fantasy of the main series. There are a lot of factors that play into that. One, that Metacritic is garbage and nobody should go by Metacritic.
Yes. What is the Metacritic score?
So the meta. So I actually just checked before we came on because I like to make sure I know what I'm talking about. And the current meta for Final Fantasy 15 is 81, which is I mean here's the thing about this generation and. Working for a publication like Gamesradar, I know this will resonate with you guys. People have pointed to lower review scores this gen and said, well, the games aren't as good. And I'm like, no, it's just that reviews are more realistic and people are more critical, far more critical this generation. And that's a good thing. And 8 means something again. The last generation, 9s and 10s were being thrown around, like candy. And so we kind of hit a point where a lot of people, not me, but a lot of people were like, well, if it's anything under a 9, it's trash, and I'm not going to play it. So I would say that, and also like when you compare the score of Final Fantasy 15 or like the overall meta to older games like Final Fantasy 12, for example, which got a 92, and that is objectively one of the worst Final Fantasy games for me.
Wow.
So yeah, let me tell you, Final Fantasy 12 was the only Final Fantasy game I did not finish.
Wow, that's interesting. I made it all the way to Vayne at the very end, and I was fighting him as the Undying. He turns into the Undying. Yep.
And I died once, and I put the controller down. I was like, I don't fucking care.
Wow. See, that's interesting.
I just don't care. Like,
I think Final Fantasy 15 and 12 share the most DNA of
I'd say
series.
I'd say 8.
Yeah, 8. 8. It's 8 and 12. Like 8, 12, and a whole dollop of Tetsuya Nomura's fashion sense, circa 2006.
Although I thought I felt the clothing styles in Final Fantasy 15 were so almost kind of muted compared to what he normally does. Like Nomura's designs are normally very there's fucking belt buckles everywhere, and you're like, oh my god. And like look at Lulu's design in Final Fantasy 10, right? Like look at her skirt. I'm like, that was the peak ridiculousness. I was like, what is going on with this woman's skirt? Like what is this?
Belt.
That was unbelievable. But 15, like a lot of people like to say that it was in development for 10 years, which is not entirely accurate.
Yeah,
I know it was. I mean, it started life as Final Fantasy Versus 13, revealed in 2006, I believe, and then somewhere around 2010 or 11, I want to say they completely. I mean, it was scrapped for all intents. I mean, they kept some of the assets, obviously, some of the story, but the game itself was almost entirely scrapped.
Yeah.
And then it started life as Final Fantasy 15. Now, a lot of people, there was a lot of bad press around Final Fantasy 15. A lot of it, deservedly so, because the game had been in development for a long time. People were iffy about what the quality was going to be, and then there was that horrible E3 showing, which was just terrible. It was when they first showcased the fight against Titan at E3, and it was awful. Like even I was one of those guys who was like, I always believed, and but I saw that E3 showing, and I was like, oh god, please don't suck, please. I need this game to be good. And Brandon, he's another guy on our podcast. He's the same way. He was like, I just need this to be good. It ended up being. I won't say where it lies in my ranking of the Final Fantasy games just yet. But I will say the game surpassed, for me, every expectation I had. And I know people have issues with it. Like, for example, and I don't know, you guys tell me, like, I think chapter 13 is the thing that everybody immediately jumps to.
So it's
right.
Really that's funny that you jump immediately to chapter 13, because I have a novel solution. I think that chapter 13 would never come up in the popular discussion about this game if the building had windows. Just put windows in. I know that sounds ridiculous.
No, it actually doesn't. People felt claustrophobic in those ways.
If all we need there is put windows in there, and so give us a big skybox. Show us these big landscapes of Niflheim in complete disarray. Show the streets empty, show me crashed cars, show me downed planes, downed airships, and demons running wild in the background while Noctis goes through these hallways by himself for what really equates to just 2 hours. Like, this isn't some catastrophic, like, oh, they threw out the gameplay entirely. All the criticisms I hear against Chapter 13 are insane.
Well, and here's the thing, man. Like Jim Sterling put it really well. In his review of 15, I was expecting him to savage the game, but he liked it. He really fucking loved it. And I love Jim Sterling's reviews just because they're so unpredictable. It's like you never know what he's gonna like and what he's not gonna like. That's why I love Jim. But he very rightfully said it's not only is it not half as bad as everybody's making it out to be, it's not even the worst Final Fantasy playable section in the history of the series.
No,
like if you played Final Fantasy 9, the Rama puzzle when you first get Rama is far worse. Far worse. So I am on the Chapter 13 defense force, and Dave, I'd like to hear what you think about Chapter 13, because this was a lot of people's huge sticking point with the game. Like if you go on, like if you went on NeoGAF, and which I try not to do, even though I'm on NeoGAF. But
that's probably a wise decision.
I try to stay away from NeoGAF as much as I can, but given my proclivities for being confrontational. But if you went on NeoGAF, there were people saying it was the worst example of poor game design in the past decade, and I'm like, did you guys play Right to Hell Retribution or Never Dead? Like, I mean, come on.
Whoa. Never Dead has its qualities.
I have a theory that the people on NeoGAF who say they like Final Fantasy actually hate Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
Like, they all have different ways that they hate Final Fantasy. And yeah, like, I Chapter 13 is uniquely frustrating in a way that the game hadn't been up to that point, and I absolutely loved it. I thought it was the dumbest, like, left turn curveball that the series could have possibly done at this given moment. It is, like, thematically works because you are officially at the lowest point in your journey here, and you have to do it all by yourself, and everything is just a slog. This dude is yelling at you the whole time. It's a horror game at this point.
That's exactly what it is.
And I'm just like, no, like, dude, like, when I started playing Final Fantasy 15, I was like, I am on whatever batshit ride this is, right? And I want to experience this game. And once Chapter 13 starts, I was like, okay, strapping in, let's go on this roller coaster, let's see where we go. And like, I loved it. I thought it was like it was frustrating. It was agonizing. It was probably 45 minutes too long, and I loved every minute of it. Because who does this? There's no, every other developer would take this section like, okay, we have to focus test it. We have to make sure everything works. We have to make sure that everything okay, so how, like, do people like this section? Yes, no, how do we fix it? And Tabado's just like, no, we're just going to put in corridors and like jump scares.
So, like, here's my thing. Like this is why I really, really enjoyed it. For me, like, you know, you've gone through the entire game with your bros. Like your bro. There's no like in Final Fantasy VI, how your party's handed you piecemeal as you go. You know, you're constantly meeting new characters. Same thing in almost every Final Fantasy game. But in Final Fantasy 15, your entire party is available from Jump Street. The bros are there, and Chapter 13 for me really underlined how essential Noctis's friends are to his survival. Yeah. Not just from a combat standpoint, but from a mental standpoint as well. Because he was freaking out. He was losing parts of himself. Arden is, and we're going to get into Arden, by the way. Arden is just taunting him over the loudspeaker.
Arden, the second best villain in all of
Final Fantasy. The second best villain on all Final Fantasy, my man. And so, like, for me, it was really fascinating after doing this great road trip with my buddies, for the previous 35 hours. All of a sudden, I'm alone. I'm by myself. Noctis is almost completely powerless. And for me, it really drove home the fact that Noctis relies more heavily on his friends than you actually realized. Mm-hmm. And for me, that's what Chapter 13 was all about. And there was really no other way to drive that point home.
John, I really think that you're totally spot on. And even like adding on to that, not just reinforcing just how vital Prompto, Ignis, and Gladiolus are to who Noctis is as a person, who he is as a character you play as, who he is as the embodiment of combat in Final Fantasy 15, which we'll definitely get into when we talk about episode Gladiolus. But Chapter 13 is, as a whole, the moment where everything about the game becomes clear. Like, I understand that people have their issues with the story, and they think that the story is vague or underserved or insert whatever the criticism is, here. But Chapter 13 lays out the fact that Final Fantasy 15's story, whether you like it or not, is everything is done on purpose. No
Yes.
corners were cut in the interest of shipping this game out. It is designed to be that way. And as Arden taunts you, you're like, oh, this is why everything seems so weird. The entire time.
To no end when people again, if you go on Twitter or places like that, people say, "Oh, well, enjoy your early access build of the game," and I'm like, "Have you ever played an early access game? Like it or not, I understand you are allowed to not like the story of Final Fantasy 15. That's allowed. Nothing is perfect. My favorite game of all time is Final Fantasy 6, and I will freely admit, like, that game is as close to perfect as any game gets, but it is not perfect. Nothing in life is perfect. I have plenty of criticisms of 15, but the story, honestly, I thought was great. But like, as far as Chapter 13 goes, so everybody knows that, and I'd love to hear what both of you think about this. Everybody knows that this month, Chapter 13 is going to be exponentially changed.
Yeah.
There are some big changes coming to Chapter 13. Among them are more scenes with Ravus and Emperor Aldercapt. Apparently, you guys may or may not have heard this, but apparently there are going to be whole playable sections with just Prompto and just Gladiolus,
which I hate. I hate that.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that.
Not a fan.
There are so I have seen the argument being tossed around that these were scenes that were supposed to be in Chapter 13 but were cut due to time constraints. I don't know if I agree with that. It reminds me, honestly, of the Mass Effect 3 situation.
Yes.
Where people bitched and complained about BioWare's vision for the game. That was their vision for the game, and if you didn't like it, that's fine. I played Mass Effect 3. I got every ending, and I didn't have a problem with it.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I liked it just fine.
but I get the sense that this is being done to appease critics critics of the game who say, well, Chapter 13 is garbage. And it's a huge exposition dump all at once, and none of it makes sense. While there are things I would have liked to have seen more screen time with the Emperor, I think. I think he got shortchanged. Verstael, the researcher, he pops up once in the whole game, and then he never shows up. I guarantee you he will be part of Prompto's DLC, by the way. Yeah. I don't know, Dave. What are your thoughts on the additions coming for Chapter 13? And I mean, I don't know, like, is that something you're looking forward to, or are you? I mean,
I want to see what they do, but I think the biggest issues that I have with the story are not issues with Chapter 13 per se, but it's the way that open world games tend to tell their stories, and it's just like, as you're playing chapters 1 through 9, up to the point where the story sort of like takes over and kicks into high gear, you'll get lots of little details from characters as you play. Like someone will say one snippet of dialogue, and it's actually really important, but you won't know that until you get to like chapter 10 or 11 or whatever. And the thing is that that's just the way that open world games are, is that you can just dink around for 20 hours and totally forget this one little nugget of information.
Exactly, yeah.
that would have clarified everything that you would have gotten as part of like a quest or something as you go along. I feel like the solution here isn't to fix Chapter 13, but is to put in some kind of like glossary or like plot synopsis like Final Fantasy 13 had, where you can go in and you go like, okay, this is what happened in Chapter 1. This is what happened in Chapter 2. These are the important people. These are the important details that I need to know, that I've learned so far. Having that, I think, would at least give people an opportunity to research that stuff rather than feel like all of this stuff is dumped on them at once, because it's not. Like, I was talking to Anthony about this, and he's like, no, they talk this in chapter, like when you're going through that dungeon, like all the stuff about the mechanical monster. Like, wait, they did?
Yep. Yeah,
like
it's
a bunch of chocobo races
website
for 10 hours.
Well, see, and like,
I totally forgot about that because I was doing the chocobo races.
Well, and see, that's the thing, right? Like people criticize the story for being disjointed, but I'm like, no, I mean, these are the same criticisms that you can levy against every open world game, because it's always the same, right? Like, does it come off as a little ridiculous in the vein of what's happening? Yes, it does. I mean, but that's a flaw of open world game design, not of Final Fantasy 15. Like, for example, you're driving around and in the regalia, and Noctis is thinking. I can just hear him, like, Noctis thinking to himself, like, all right, Insomnia is under siege. My father's dead. I don't know where my bride-to-be is. We're on the run for our lives. We've got to get to Titan and awaken him. But first, I gotta find this guy's dog tags. I've got to find this guy's dog tags. And I'm like, is it ridiculous? Yes, but that's not a flaw of Final Fantasy 15. That's just game design, and there's no real smart way around that when it comes to
it's not even just open world games. I mean, that's applicable to literally every Final Fantasy game ever made. Like, if you go back to the original game, and it's like, oh, well, the 4 heroes of light, my nameless 4 heroes of light, are on a quest to destroy all of chaos. And they stop to watch a tiny girl in town dance like this. Like, that's just video games, man.
Well, and like, like people, look at the criticisms, or look at the criticisms that people leave it against Final Fantasy 13, and then look at and then put Final Fantasy 15 at the opposite end of the spectrum. Like everybody knows that people criticize 13, and I'm on the 13 defense force, by the way.
Yep.
Everybody knows that 13 was criticized for being way too linear. Oh, this game's linear. It's A to B. Fight. It's every map is go to the orange glowing mark, fight a boss, and keep going. Right? Too linear. And then Final Fantasy 15. Oh, it's too open. Right? Like, this is this huge open world. You get lost in it. But really, every fucking game is linear. Like if you're playing, like at the end of the day, there is no such thing as a truly open-ended game. Right? Like, except for maybe for DayZ.
Right. Like, something that you don't finish.
You are going to reach an endpoint in Final Fantasy 15, right? Like, it's the great illusion. It's the great illusion of choice, right? Like, you can dither around in the world of EOS as long as you want, but ultimately, unless you're content wandering around and looking at flora and fauna, you have to finish the game at some point. So, I mean, there is a linear storyline. Which is why I never got the criticisms of Final Fantasy 13. Because, like, well, every fucking Final Fantasy game is linear. Like, the first 5 hours of Final Fantasy 7, you were trying to get out of Midgar.
I think whenever I think about why people have such a negative reaction to Final Fantasy 13, I don't think that what they're responding to is the structure, even though they think it's the structure. Like, oh, it's all just one hallway. Like, dude, so is Final Fantasy 4. And people think that game is a classic. I think the real problem with Final Fantasy 13, and it's something that Final Fantasy 15, does perfectly, is that 13's characters, when you first meet all of them, are weird. Like, they're not likable at all. Like, they're chilly, and they hate each other.
The only character I liked right off the bat was Saz. He was the only character I liked right off the bat. Like, Lightning, I was like, I really don't like you. They tried too hard to make a female Cloud.
Yes.
And then what's this? Snow. I was like, I love Troy Baker. But Snow was I don't like Snow.
Snow is eminently punchable. Always.
He's never like, I knew too many guys like Snow in high school, right?
Yeah.
Like, I was like, bro, dude. But honestly, my biggest problem with 13 was the villain, Bartanilus, Space Pope. Was just the most forgettable Space Pope, or some people call him was a Robo Pope. Like, I mean, he was the worst Final Fantasy villain he was just the worst. He was the worst. Every time he came on screen, I stopped caring. I was like, this crusty old man is going to turn into a giant robot, and I get it. It's a Final Fantasy game, so shit like that happens all the time. But this guy is just plain boring, as opposed to our next topic. What I think should be our next topic is Final Fantasy 15's antagonist, Arden Izunia, who, as Anthony very, 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 very astutely put, is the second best Final Fantasy villain of all time, right behind Kefka, not Sephiroth.
Yeah, I will say one little quick thing. Are we willing to count Final Fantasy Tactics as a Final Fantasy game? Can we include that in the conversation? Because I think Delita is tied.
Is Delita a villain, though?
So he's an antagonist.
He's an antagonist.
I wouldn't call him a villain, but he's definitely an antagonist.
I feel like you could have an hour-long discussion just about Delita Hyrule. Yeah. I really, really do. So, okay, all right. For purposes of the discussion, we'll include Delita. because he's a far better. What was the other guy? Formov.
Yeah.
Whatever.
And he's just medieval Pope.
Yeah,
like,
I'm a knight who turns into a monster. But Arden, from the end, you got to credit, like, half of the reason Arden is so great is because of Darren DePaul's amazing voice work.
Such a good performance.
You could tell that he threw everything he had into that character, and he's just so eminently, I watched an interview with Darren DePaul, and he put it really good. He said, I tried to give Arden this air of very sincere insincerity.
Yeah.
And I thought that was brilliant. And he's just so oily and snake-like. And there are a lot of parallels, actually, between Kefka and Arden. Mm-hmm. From their flamboyant nature to the fact that they were both, the number 2 man in the Empire. They were both involved in Magitech. In fact, the call-outs for Final Fantasy VI in 2015 I love them. There were small ones that some people might not have caught. But I don't know, what made Arden for you guys such a great, instantly likable character?
Dave,
you still there?
My internet is cutting in and out. I apologize.
Oh, there he is. Don't worry about it, man.
Anthony, go first.
All right. Yeah, Arden works for me. Again, I sort of appreciate where people are coming from in saying, like, I don't understand this story. I don't understand why everything is so awkward whenever any of the characters meet up. Why would Noctis go with Arden when he knows that he is the right-hand man of the guy that murdered his father, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But, unless Final Fantasy 15 is the first fantasy story in, like, whether any medium, movie, book, video game, it is so abundantly clear the first time you see Arden that he is clearly some kind of incredibly powerful person who is manipulating everything.
Well, that's why, like, on Twitter, I said, "Oh, Arden's a great villain," and somebody said, "Spoilers." I'm like, dude. I was like, it is literally. I said, have you played it? No, I'm starting it tomorrow, and you just spoiled me. I'm telling you right now. Not only do you meet this guy like in the first hour of the game, but he is very clearly the villain from the first 30 seconds you meet him. I'm like,
he has a leather wing as a sleeve.
Yeah, I'm like, he wears an amazing fedora. He's got a frilly neck thing, and he's dressed all in black, and he speaks in a slithery British accent. He is the villain. Like, it is obvious that this man is the villain. He's even called Suspicious Stranger.
Yeah.
When you meet him, I'm like, come on. Did you think this guy was going to join your party? Come on. Come on. And so, yeah, to me, I was like, spoiler my ass. It's not a spoiler. Or what is a spoiler, though, is his. I didn't realize how controversial among Final Fantasy fans his final boss fight was. There was a lot of discussion. So we had a big discussion on this podcast. We didn't do it live, but behind this in our DMs, we were those of us who beat it were like, okay, let's talk about the final boss, because somebody, a lot of people said, and again, a lot of this is from Twitter and Gaff. A lot of people did not like the final boss fight because he didn't transform into this multi-winged angelic demonic monstrosity.
Who cares? Who cares?
And people are like, it didn't feel like an epic Final Fantasy boss because there's no, huge transformation. And I said, honestly, I liked it. I really loved it because, one, it's something that the series has never done before, but two, it felt so much more personal. And I feel like and you guys tell me what you think, but I feel like had he gone full Kafka, I like to call it, and turned into this giant evil angel figure, which every Final Fantasy boss since the beginning of time has turned into an angel, to the point where I'm convinced that angels might be secretly evil, because every Final Fantasy boss is an angel, every single one.
Yeah.
But he didn't. He was him, and I loved it. It felt so personal to me.
And the thing is you fought that fight already when you fought Ifrit before you fought Arden.
Yeah. That was a big epic fight.
Why does he? And he can't transform. That's why he uses Ifrit to guard his domain. him transforming would just be the game's already over the top. Like you don't need to go there. It's already there.
And like, why do you want him? He's so much more interesting.
Yes.
Just as he is. Like, once it becomes clear how God, I have many favorite moments of this game, but one of my favorite moments of this game is right before the final chapter, when you've made your way through chapter 13, and Arden looks at Noctis before he goes into the crystal, and he's like, yeah, go in there. Go in there and become powerful enough to actually deal with what I am right now.
Because, well, and like there, dude, I'm really glad you brought that up, because there's a moment when, and again, this is one due to, great facial animation by Square Enix, but also due to great voice work by Darren Paul. There's a moment I remember very clearly when Noctis is being sucked into the crystal, and Arden is talking about, he says, the people, he says, this a jealous king demonized and ostracized this healer and made him a real monster. And there's a look on Arden's face that it was a split second, and then it cuts away to Noctis. But I was like, damn, I felt this man's pain.
Yeah,
because I mean, Arden is probably the most sympathetic antagonist in the series history. I mean, he really got fucked over. He really got fucked over. And just as an aside, I actually have a description of. So originally, you guys may not know this, but originally Arden was supposed to transform.
Oh, really? I didn't know this.
And I actually have a description of his final boss form from somebody who worked on the game. And he's on Twitter, and I got this from him, and it's a guy I trust. He's given me good stuff before. It was scrapped in January 2015.
Wow.
Because Tabata said, you know what, it just doesn't fit his character.
Awesome.
The original final boss fight was going to take place, and this is one of the reasons that the setup would have worked fine. The original final boss was going to take place inside of the crystal. You know that moment where you come down and Arden bows and he starts demoning out, and then you see Regis and all your buddies behind you. Originally, when Arden starts going full demon, he was going to transform at that point, and you and your friends and your father were going to fight him inside of the crystal. And his final boss, his final transformation form was this giant skinless skull thing.
Nope, lame.
With wings coming out. Because, every boss has to have wings.
That's an Imura-ass boss fight right there.
And like other parts of demons fused onto him.
Nope, lame.
And he would have been completely unrecognizable. And I guess Tabata saw the art. Like, it never even made it to code. Tabata saw the artwork and he was like, this does not fit Arden's character.
Yeah.
He's like, I mean, they literally turned him into a giant skinless skull with wings and like demon stuff poking out of him.
Terrible.
And you were gonna fight him with your buddies in the crystal, and your dad was gonna be like a fifth party member like Core was. And our Tabata was like, okay, one, this makes no fucking sense. And two, like no fucking sense. And two, he had this vision of Arden to be this tragic but also like almost very noble and proud figure, and he felt like that would have been lost by some monstrous transformation.
Yeah,
I'm glad he did it.
Arden has one of the best motivations of any villain. Like I don't really understand why Sephiroth wants to like blow up the world.
He's crying for his mommy.
He's crying for his mommy, but his mommy's there. His
mommy drank too much, and she didn't love him, and like that's Sephiroth is so overrated.
He's so overrated. He's so overrated.
We're just gonna get that out of the way. Like Sephiroth is massively overrated.
Don't add us at Twitter.
No,
yeah,
please come at me. I don't mind. Arden's whole motivation of saying like, look, I am either going to burn this all to the ground, and that will be satisfying to me, or I will finally get to die.
Yes. And what dude, in that sense, Arden is the only villain other than Kefka to actually win.
Yes.
Like he wins. Like Kefka, when I first played Final Fantasy VI and Kefka destroyed the world, I was like, what the fuck just happened? I was like, whoa, like holy crap. I'd never seen anything like that in a game before. The villain actually, with the world, no matter what happened to Kafka after that, the world was forever different. It would never be the same. And with Arden, the way he taunts you during his fight, he says it. He says, "Look, either I'm going to win and I'm going to plunge the world into darkness, or I'm going to lose and I'm going to be at rest. But either way, I win.
Yep,
I win." And he does. He won. Not only did Noctis die at the end, but Arden finally found his rest, and so he won. He won. And I almost am glad he did, because I felt so sorry for the fucking guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just so yeah, and man, when you're fighting him and his armature starts and you guys are flying through the city and that music starts, like that amazing music from Yoko Shimomura starts up.
So
I was like, oh man. And one other thing I'll point out that people have criticized the final battle for is, it was a little too easy. And I'm like, okay, you understand, like, you can kill Kefka in one round, right? Like it's not like I actually died during Arden. I got a game over during Arden.
He killed you?
He killed me. So here's the weird thing, right? Like and this has happened to other people. He will kill you during that airborne fight, during his airborne phase. He will kill you, but sometimes he will lock your body in stasis and you cannot use a Phoenix down.
Ooh.
And that's the game over. It happened to me. And if you look at any game board, like GameFAQs, still over GameFAQs, like, holy shit, like I couldn't use a Phoenix down. Well, Arden will actually hold your body in stasis and prevent you from using items. And if that happens while you're dead, then that's it. Like, so game over. But speaking of, I could talk. Arden's such a great character. I could talk about Arden all damn day. But speaking of the combat, do you guys want to talk about the combat in Final Fantasy 15? Because that's really
for sure.
That's really, I mean, that's honestly the biggest change from older. I mean, it's no longer turn-based, although you can turn on, I don't know what you guys did, but I always turned on wait just because it kind of gave me that old school. Like I like strategy and I like thinking about what I'm going to do next. So I turned on wait, and it gave it a little bit more of an old school feel while keeping it new. But the combat system is no longer turn-based. It is completely action-based now. It's an action RPG. I loved it, and I don't ever want the active time battle system to come back in the mainline series now. That's a controversial statement for some people. But I felt like, with warp striking and the way they implemented magic is almost like a grenade was just so cool, I thought. And
very cool.
And I absolutely loved it. The only criticism I have, and you guys tell me what you think, is that I do understand where people say the game was too easy on a whole, as a whole, because you can stock up on 99 Phoenix Downs and constantly revive yourself and not have a whole lot of worries.
Yeah.
I didn't die much the only times I died during the game were once at Arden when he locked my body into stasis, and once at the Quetzalcoatl boss, and because I didn't have any Phoenix Downs, and then I had to do the whole dungeon over. And I was like, oh god.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Like, what are you guys' thoughts on the combat system? I personally, it's my favorite. Like, the only thing that comes close is 13.
I loved it. I adored it. To be perfectly honest, wasn't sure what to expect. Having played episode Dusky and then the Platinum demo, I was like, what the hell is this game going to play like at all? I never used wait, actually. I tried it once, and I just sort of used the active battle system. I did think it was easy, but I don't exactly come to mainline Final Fantasy for a steep combat challenge.
Yeah, I don't want this to be Dark Souls.
Right, I don't need this to be Dark Souls. And frankly, the difficulty is there if you're trying to, if you're trying to do everything. Like, if you're actually doing all of the optional dungeons and trying to get all of the king weapons.
Oh, dude, those optional like Castle Mark is legit.
It's hard.
Damn, like you think the game is easy? Go to Castle Mark dungeon, get down to about floor 50, and probably when you're fighting those room after room of 4 Tonberries.
Yep.
Like, let me know how easy the game is. But the thing is, man, it's like, I don't play. I don't know. Like you said, I don't play these games to throw my controller against the wall in a fit of rage, right? Like, there's plenty of challenges to be found. Like, I was talking to a friend of mine. He says, "Well, the game's too easy," and I said, "Okay, well, what chapter you on?" "I'm on chapter 4. "Okay, what level are you?" "I'm 86. I'm like,
what?
Okay, like
Do the
How
story.
do you do that?
I'm like, well, I'm doing all the side stuff. I'm like, well, yes, the game is going to be ridiculously easy if you're fighting level 20 enemies at level 86. Yes, absolutely, the game is going to be too. Like, you have literally broke the game.
Yep.
And that's actually one thing I felt like that Final Fantasy 13 did really well, was it prevented you from over-leveling and completely trivializing the rest of the experience.
Yeah.
And I don't understand why you would want to play 15 that way. Like, I don't. I just don't. You know, the opportunity is there to massively overlevel, and I was like, no, I want.
Yeah, and like every Final Fantasy game is kind of easy if you go back. Like Final Fantasy VII is, you know, if you spend a couple minutes just running back and forth and leveling a little bit, like you're fine. Like Final Fantasy has never been a really difficult game outside of boss fights, really, and even then, it's just sort of knowing their pattern and then executing it.
Look at Final Fantasy VIII. Like, you can stockpile 99 Ultimas and junction them to your character, and you're set. Like, you're done. That's it. Like game over. Like
also, I still don't totally understand what the hell Final Fantasy VIII wanted me to do in terms of its battle system. I replayed it last year, and John, this is a whole other conversation we could have, because Dave sort of joined me on this, but I created a new thing called Final Fantasy Tourist Mode, wherein you go find an old save file on the internet for something like Final Fantasy 8 or 12, so you can just blast through the story.
That's great.
But I replayed 8 start to finish last year for the first time since it came out, and I get it now. I get it. So, you have a witch. The witch is basically Arden. She is omnipotent and all-powerful, and the witch is like, I don't want to ever fucking die. So what I'm gonna do to make sure I don't die is I am going to make all of existence into a single moment. I am going to destroy linear time and basically be the only thing that exists. And that's what she's trying to do, and teenagers who were orphans together, who don't remember that they were orphans together, don't remember things because monsters live in their brain. Yeah, I got the basics. If
anybody who tells me the story in Final Fantasy 15 sucks, I'm like, go play Final Fantasy 8, and then you're like, hold my beer. Okay, I'm gonna go play Final Fantasy 8. I'm gonna write down what happened. And then I'm going to give it to you, and I'm going to take my beer back, and you're going to make sense of what I wrote down. And if you can make sense of what I wrote down, I'm going to pay you $100.
Here it is.
Yeah, we're not crazy. We're just saying things that happened.
Yeah.
Yes, that is literally what happened to the game. A witch was like, man, dying sucks. I'm gonna kill time. And then a bunch of teenagers who don't remember that they were orphans together were like, no.
They're like, nah,
man. Like,
don't do it.
That ain't gonna happen. And by the way, like, I want to point out, I'm glad you brought up 8. I'm glad we're talking about 8, because real quick, I want to point out that Ultimecia is the reason that I loved that Arden did not have a transformation. Because if you want to talk about overdoing this isn't even my final form trope, how, like, by form number 3, I was like, Ultimecia, why won't you die? I was like Austin Powers. I was like, why won't you die? And so you fight her as the witch, and then you fight Griever, and then you fight, and then she's like slaps herself onto Griever, she glues herself to Griever, and I'm like, and I kill her. I'm like, that's it. But then she rises up from the grave. I'm like, oh my god, Ultimecia, please, like, what is happening? And that was back in the day where I feel like Square Enix was just going really over the top with some of this shit. But yeah, and now we're going on the Final Fantasy VIII rabbit hole. Again, I could talk about Final Fantasy VIII's faults all night. But we're talking about combat in Final Fantasy 15, and actually so the combat in Final Fantasy 15 is actually a great segue into Episode Gladiolus.
Yes.
Which David, I know you said you didn't get a chance to play it, right?
Right.
Okay, so I played all the way to the end of the demo at PAX. I don't really consider there to be any huge spoilers in there, but I'll try to. I don't know, like.
So telling people what happens in that demo is okay, because you basically just get the premise.
Yeah,
it's Gladio, the reason Gladio, fucks off to go eat his cup of noodle by himself for a little while is...
I'm sorry. Got me thinking of that one line where he says, "After all, cup noodle shrimp are picked from over 60 varieties for their flavor and shape." And I remember hearing that line, and I was like, okay. I was like, have you ever seen a cup noodle shrimp? Like, if we're talking about picking shrimp based on their flavor and shape, first of all, cup noodle shrimp have no flavor.
No.
Second of all, cup noodle shrimp are that big.
No.
They're that big. So if you're picking these shrimp for their shape, I don't want to see the competing shrimp. I don't want to see them. Don't show me. Like I don't mean to interrupt you, man, but every time, like, I just that got me. And then you go fight a giant shrimp ball.
Yeah, go fight a giant shrimp.
Because Gladio wants shrimp in his cup noodles.
He's got to have it.
Oh my lord. Anyway, keep going.
Yeah. So strong guy wants to get stronger, and so he goes and he finds Core.
I read your piece on Gamesradar, by the way. It was great.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, thanks, man. Core is like, yeah, man, let's do it. I know where you can fight the Master of Blades, and let's go fight him.
Yeah.
And that's what's going on in episode Gladiolus. The demo that John and I got to play is just about half an hour long.
Yeah.
And it is apparently that represents like a big chunk of what the DLC is. Like the DLC is only going to be a couple of hours long.
I would not expect this to be like a 5-6 hour experience.
Yeah. No. This is a dungeon.
Especially priced at $4.99.
Yeah. Yeah, the combat, like you said, John, is kind of the place to start with this, because you said at PAX you enjoyed the demo, you were into it. I was not, purely because the moment, everybody sort of before Final Fantasy 15 came out were like, oh, why are you only going to get to control one character? And you find out when you're not controlling Noctis, that battle system isn't that battle system anymore.
Yep, exactly.
You lose all of the meat when you're just a guy with a sword and a shield.
Yeah, that's it. Well, and so like, here's the thing about the combat in episode Gladiolus. Like, I enjoyed it.
Mm.
I am not going to play it right off the bat when it releases. I'm going to wait for all the DLCs, and then I'm going to replay the whole game and just play the DLCs in order.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a Final Fantasy game. I'm gonna replay it, but I'd rather wait till all the DLCs are out and then just play the whole damn thing. What I found out about the combat is that Gladiolus all of a sudden, right from Jump Street, has access to abilities he does not have in the main game, and so I'm like, well, why are you holding out on Noctis and gang? Like you can do all these amazing things. Like you've got like Earthfall, like Shatterblade. I can't remember, like all this crazy shit that he can't do. Tempest Blade. All the shit that he can't do in the main game, and so obviously that obviously he can do all this shit, but then he's done. He got all this power, like he's doing this to get power, right? But then he gets done with his quest, and he comes back to Noctis and gang, and has the exact same fucking shit he had before. So I'm
right.
like, it doesn't fit into the canon of the story. I'm like, in order to properly like implement this, like, wouldn't you have to change Gladio's abilities for the entirety of the game going forward? Because he's got all these crazy abilities he can do in the demo, all these super cool action moves he can do, and then he goes and he beats the Master of Blades, which he's gonna do, and I got to get powerful to help the king. And then he comes back to the group and he can do nothing new.
He's got those dope scars.
Chicks dig scars. I get it. It's great.
That's it.
I got a few myself, but it doesn't make any sense from a narrative standpoint. That's what bugs me. Like, the combat is fine. But from a narrative standpoint, that was in the back of my head the entire time I was playing it. I was like, I'm playing this, and he's going to get more power, but I know what happens. Nothing changes. He comes back, and he's the same fighter.
Yep.
He's the same fighter. He just has a new scar. Yeah. That's all. So I don't know, man. Like, it makes me wonder how necessary all this really is.
The existence of these episodes, this reeks of business time McBusinesson to me.
Yep.
This is we need to create the most compelling package. We need all the revenue streams and being able to sell a season pass and have this other stuff there.
I mean, for Final Fantasy, it's brave new territory. Don't get me wrong.
It's not necessarily brave new territory, you know, like it's being delivered in a different way. You know, how every single Final Fantasy has been re-released in one form or another. And, you know, like when Final Fantasy IV came out on Game Boy Advance, there were the extra character-specific dungeons added. You know,
That's a good point.
They always do this. And now this is just the modern substantiation of, like, this is how we're going to get you to spend a little bit more money.
That's a really good point.
But like you said, it doesn't make... Final Fantasy 15 is Noctis's story. That is it. You never leave his perspective. It's why I don't like the idea of them adding portions to Chapter 13 where you're playing as Prompto or Gladiolus, because that doesn't make any sense in the context of the game.
Well, it feels like Square Enix is second guessing themselves.
Yes, yeah, and so to slot these things in, like I mean, we're already full on into spoiler territory with Final Fantasy 15. I'm gonna play the one with Prompto because I want to know more about how he's not a real boy.
So here's the thing about that, right? And we'll get back to episode Gladio in a minute. So, do you guys have the strategy guide for Final Fantasy 15?
I don't.
Okay, so if you don't,
I do. I haven't had a chance to read the because there are like new character descriptions and stuff in there, right?
So yeah, so here's the deal. If you read it, you find out that Prompto is, spoiler alert, Versdale's son.
Oh shit!
Because and there's a family tree, there's a family tree, and it says father son right there, and I'm like,
I
did not know this. So I'm not sure that he's a Magitech Knight. I think he can get in there because he's Versdale's kid.
Interesting. That's super interesting.
Which is why I think Versdale is going to feature heavily in his DLC. And that's the one thing I would like to see, because like he was an interesting design character. He seems super evil, and then you saw him in a cutscene and that was it. Like he vanished. But I guarantee you he's going to be probably a boss in Prompto's DLC. He might even show up in the Prompto playable section in Chapter 13 when they add that. But no, Prompto is Versdale's son. Which throws a whole new wrinkle into things. Again, like it makes me wonder. Like I truly, like, a huge part of me does not believe that these were bits that were meant to be in the game, but were cut out.
Yeah.
But it does make you wonder why they would say that in the strategy guide and not address it at all. Like, not address it at all.
I mean, there's plenty of stuff that is only addressed in Kingsglaive.
That's true.
Only addressed in Brotherhood.
Which gets such a bad rap, by the way. Kingsglaive was fun, I thought. Like, I thought it was fun.
You go to Rotten Tomatoes. There's only one positive review of Kingsglaive, and it's this guy.
It's the best action movie of 2016.
I decided it was awesome the minute I saw Ultros, and I was like, that's it. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So for episode Gladio, like, I don't know, like, can we say who the Master of Blades is? I don't really think it's a spoiler.
No.
So it's Gilgamesh. When you play the demo, like, he pops up pretty early, and he does not look like what you would expect.
Yeah.
At all. He does not look like he's missing an arm. I fully expect when you fight him, you'll get 6-arm Gilgamesh. Like, something will happen.
Sure.
But what I will say is that his Battle on the Big Bridge music in Final Fantasy 15 is the best rendition I have ever heard. Like, it is awesome. It is. That is the reason I'm really looking forward to the DLCs. I just want to fight Gilgamesh again. Like, I just want to fight Gilgamesh. But yeah. So when it comes down to these downloadable episodes like Gladiolus and then Prompto, and then I know Ignis is going to get his own. And then there's supposed to be like a multiplayer component coming.
Oh, that's right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
And so apparently, and again, I'm getting this from, this is the same guy who told me about Arden's Final Form. So I trust him. Apparently, it's going to be set during that 10-year period where everything's dark in the world of Ruin.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be kind of a, link up with people online and go hunt demons.
Oh, that's awesome. All right.
Yeah.
That sounds great.
Which I'm actually totally down for.
I'm in. Yeah.
I'm totally down for that. That actually sounds cool. That right there, actually, guys, is my biggest criticism of the game. Is I wanted to spend more time in the world of Ruin.
Yeah, absolutely.
Same.
So I can tell you that originally there was going to be a little bit more in the world of Ruin. And again, I'm getting all this from this one guy. And originally you were supposed to see what's her face?
Battle hardened Cindy. That was the one that pissed me off in the world of Ruin.
Well, and here's the interesting part. Did you guys see the artwork so leading up to the game every day, like for 10 days, like for 15 days, Square Enix would tweet out a picture.
Mm-hmm.
Like day 5, here you go, day 5. If you look at day 5, it's artwork of Cindy wearing a leather jacket, a leather motorcycle jacket. That was apparently going to be her World of Ruin design 10 years later, which is why it doesn't show up the guy on Twitter, he was like, that's why it doesn't show up in the game, because those assets weren't used. But that artwork was going to be her in the World of Ruin. You were going to go to Lestalem, and Sid was going to be there, and Cora was going to be there. And this is the one place where I felt like the game stumbled. Was its implementation of the World of Ruin, because you get there, Noctis wakes up and he meets his buddies, and he just happens to run into that fucking guy driving the truck. And then I was
he's there intentionally.
He's there intentionally. You're right about that. But they get to Hammerhead, and they're like, we got a lot to talk about, and then they don't talk about shit. And I was like, did we talk? Like, did I accidentally skip a cutscene? What happened? And then you leave and you go immediately to Insomnia. But originally the plan was going to be, you go to Lestalem and there's a big meeting, and Cora's there and Iris is there, and she's a demon hunter now. And then you would go. So it wasn't like you were going to get to explore the entire world of Ruin, but the concept behind what had happened, I would have loved to have known more about what Arden's been doing in those 10 years, about the people's lives in Lestalem now, about how the world has coped. I loved the call out to Final Fantasy VI when they called it the World of Ruin, and we got there and I was like, oh my Lord, this is amazing. Yeah. I'm going to love this. And then 5 minutes later, you're in Insomnia at the final dungeon. I was like, oh, okay. And I'm not taking anything away from Insomnia. Is a great final dungeon. I loved it.
Yeah.
I felt like it would have been more effective if they'd had the Somnus music play during battles. But other than that, I love the final dungeon. But I don't know, like, do you guys agree with my criticisms on the World of Ruin? Like, do you think
I just 100%. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I wanted to make, like, because I don't know. I was like, like maybe I'm complaining about nothing, but I felt like we deserved more time in that world.
Yeah.
Like I really wanted to see, like, I don't feel like we got a true sense of the impact that the Star Scourge had on the population.
Yeah.
We just saw a few demon hunters at Hammerhead, and then everybody suited up and went to Insomnia and took care of Arden. So that's why, if this is true, that's why I'm really looking forward to the multiplayer component, because I want to see more of that world.
Yeah. And like,
go ahead.
That was just a thing that I thought there was an easy fix for, was when they were driving to Hammerhead and the kids sitting there telling you all about what everybody's been up to, I was like, this is going to be badass. I'm going to have to go find Ignis, Prompto.
That would have been so amazing.
And that's it. Like, that's the easy fix. Like, and that is, I do think that if there's one thing where you can see them just like, we need to get this game done,
It's the
that.
World of Ruin. Yeah, I agree. I agree. And people are like, you know, I actually had this argument with somebody. Somebody said, well, it's obvious they cut shit out of chapter 13. I'm like, actually, to me, it's more obvious they cut shit out of chapter 14 because it's gone you blink your eyes and it's gone. So forget adding stuff, you know, crap to chapter 13. I want you to flesh out chapter 14. I would much rather have more time in the World of Ruin than I would in Zegnata's Keep. I would. That's just me. I don't think that chapter 13 needs anything else. I don't think it needs to be supplemented. I don't think it needs any additions. I would say don't bother with that. Give me more of the World of Ruin. I want to see. We don't need another 10 hours of it like we got in Final Fantasy VI. I want to get a better sense of the impact that Arden's actions had upon the world. And I don't, for such a great character, I don't feel like we really got a good sense of how he affected the world in a negative way with what he did. That's just what I think. I don't know. So I got to ask you guys. I have played every Final Fantasy game from 1 to 15, and all the subtitles as well. For me, I actually wrote an article about this on our website, and I thought long and hard about where I would rank Final Fantasy 15 in my favorite games in the series. And for me, it is and a lot of people are like, oh man, I can't believe it. But for me, it's my second favorite game in the series, right behind 6. My top 3 have got to be in descending order 6, 15, and 7. I know 7 is the cliched answer, but I mean it really
It's a great game.
It's a great game, but it also it did worlds for bringing Final Fantasy out of the niche category and into the mainstream. And so it was a benchmark game, it was a benchmark title. But 15 it was a perfect fusion for me of the new, in regards to the combat system and the setting, and the old, which is all those classic Final, like driving around in the regalia and listening to any track I want.
Awesome.
From any Final Fantasy game, amazing. And if you're walking around in EOS and you're not listening to the overworld theme from Final Fantasy VI, you're doing yourself a huge disservice.
Yeah.
And apparently now you can. I haven't played it. I'm actually going to do one of the timed hunts tonight. But now you can play the soundtrack on your Chocobo as well.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So you have the ability to do that. But I don't know. Where would you guys rank Final Fantasy 15 in in the series as you guys see it?
Dave.
I'm basically perfectly lined up with you. 6, 15, and 7. I feel like the 15 has a few too many story stumbles, just the way that the open world and the story is structured for me to rank it above 6. But it's easily the most fun I've had playing a Final Fantasy game. I was telling Anthony, the moment that I beat the game and wrote a review, I was like, I'm going to get the platinum trophy and I'm going to start this bad boy over again. I'm playing again. I decided to wait for the new add-ons and the other stuff, just because I've had a bunch of other stuff I'm trying to get through for work. But most of the time, you finish a Final Fantasy, okay, that's good. I need to give it some distance. And 15, I was just no, I got to get back in there. I got to fight more hunts. And now they've added these timed hunts that
they're so good. They're so good.
I tried to fight this most recent one. It's a level 140 behemoth. I'm ooh, that's a little too. I can't do that right now. But
I'm gonna try tonight, actually.
Yeah, it's tough. But yeah, it is the combat and the way that the game is structured, as far as the taking bits and pieces of what works from open world games and putting it all in this Final Fantasy, with this Final Fantasy spin, to me is I want to be in that world forever. If I could, if there was enough content in there, it would be the only game that I would play. It would be like Final Fantasy 14 for a lot of people, but for me, so that's basically where I stand on it.
Anthony, what about you, man?
I don't think you're gonna like my top 3.
Oh, let's hear it, man. Let's hear it.
Final Fantasy 15 is actually and this is my favorite. These are the games that I respond to the most. I wouldn't necessarily say that they are objectively the best, but it is number 4. And my number 1 is Final Fantasy VI. Like you can't mess with perfection. My second favorite Final Fantasy game ever made is Lightning Returns.
Ooh, controversy.
Yeah. I think that game is a remarkable piece of science fiction.
It had one of the craziest final boss fights ever.
Like, one of the craziest final boss fights. And it's also, I think, time is going to tell with that game. Like, that is going to be, the equivalent of, I'm trying to think of, like, a really good reference point, or, like, a Jet Set Radio or something, Or,
like, even Nier, like Nier.
Yes.
That's a great comparison.
Nier is the good comparison. Like, Lightning Returns is going to be the game that people catch on to as years go by. And the other thing is I think it would have been, we would all be in a better place if Lightning Returns was just called Final Fantasy 13.
I think I can be on board with that. Yep.
Yeah. Like, if that was it, and then the other two were weird spin-offs. I love that game. I think it's remarkable. I also think Final Fantasy 12 is remarkable. That's my number 3.
Man. I just, like, with 12, man, like, Vaughn is just the worst protagonist. He's
not the protagonist. Like, he's
so well. Actually, do you know the story behind that?
Yeah.
Bosch
I know
von Ronsenberg was supposed to be the protagonist, and then I guess Square was like, no, he's too dude, bro. He's too masculine. We need to.
Yeah.
So Vaughn was literally shoehorned into the game.
Yeah, and not only that. So after Square nixed Bosch, Yasumi Matsuno was like, all right, well, what if our main character was Balthier and Frank?
Should have been Balthier.
And awesome. I if the game just started and Balthier and Fran met, Vaughn and Pinello, and then had them tag along, I would have been way on board.
Yep.
That was another one. Last year, played Final Fantasy 12 start to finish for the first time since it came out. I did that and 8 back to back. And what I did with 12, my tourist mode, was I found a save file that starts you at the very, very beginning of the game, but every single character starts with every single license board spot opened from the start, and you have 5 of every single item.
Nice. That's awesome.
Everything. But you're all still level 1. And so you can just play the game in a way where it's, you have your gambits, you don't have to worry about the license board, you don't have to worry about items, and you just play strategically. And it really sort of reminded me just how goddamn good that story is. Like, Vaughn is Vaughn, but the story of Bosch and Ash and Balthier and Fran, I just love those characters.
And some of the best voice acting in any Final Fantasy game. It wasn't it's far from my favorite Final Fantasy game, but I will take nothing away from that voice acting because man, it was good. And then
especially coming after 10.
Yes. Oh my lord, yes. 10 is the most overrated thing on the like, from the terrible character designs to the awful voice acting to Seymour, who is the worst Final Fantasy villain of all time. Ever. I cannot. Every time he was on screen, I was like,
boo.
I was like, I can't do this. I mean, look at his character design. What is going on? Like, I don't get it.
Is Seymour... what is going on here?
The giant bow, like a huge V-neck, like my you can see my chest. My chest.
I don't know what
I've got my giant bow on my waist.
Wings. I don't know. I don't know what the hell's going on.
My hair is like forming antennas, and then I've got 9-inch nails, literally.
Yep.
And so I was like, he had some really cool fights, but I was like, Seymour sucks.
Yeah.
Oh, he to me was like you with Ultimecia, where it's just like, dude, why won't you just fucking
Why won't you just please die?
Please die.
Like,
so many times you fight that guy.
And like, this is coming from a company that was responsible not just for characters like Kefka and Arden, but Golbez, who was one of the most multifaceted villains. In like when you find out the truth about Golbez, like I was 12 when I played Final Fantasy 4, and I was just like, or Final Fantasy 2 as it was known at the time. But my mind was blown. I was like, whoa! I was like, what do you mean he's your brother? Like, holy crap! Like that literally just blew my mind. So
John,
for that,
have you played Final Fantasy IV DS, the 3D remake?
I did. Super duper ultra hard.
Very hard. Very
Ridiculous.
hard.
I prefer the PSP version.
Yeah, I like the PSP version a lot. If I like when I play that game at this point, I always play the Game Boy Advance version, like because I could just like fly through it. But I really loved the stuff they added with Goldes in the DS remake. Like
I did too.
scenes.
Yeah,
I thought that was really cool and like one of the rare examples of fleshing out the story in a way that enhanced the work.
it makes me really sad that whole Final Fantasy 30th anniversary thing, where we were going to get every single game, did not come to pass. Like the big rumor was they're going to re-release every single game in a collection, and my entire year would have been gone. But that would have wiped out. Like that would have taken. Yeah, that would have been it. But of course, it didn't happen. I would love to have Final Fantasy VI with trophy support. Sony, just give me that, and I'll be happy. But yeah, for me, Final Fantasy 15 was at the same time not what I expected and exactly what I needed. I put 126 hours into it. I platinumed it, and I'm still playing it. I keep an eye out for the daily hunts, or not for the daily hunts, but for the timed hunts. I'm going to completely replay through the whole thing from scratch when all the DLC is out, because I want to experience the whole thing. And yeah, it's going to become one of those games. Like everybody has those games that they replay in the regular. Like I play Uncharted 2 probably every year, and I play The Last of Us every year, like clockwork. Final Fantasy 15 is going to be one of those games that is in my rotation, just like Super Metroid. I play Super Metroid every year.
Yeah.
I loved it. I felt that it was a natural progression of the series. And people complain about it. Like I just found myself wondering, are we playing the same game? Because I love this. Like this is great.
It gives me more hope for the future of Final Fantasy than any of the 13 games ever did.
Which is good, because apparently if this game had underperformed, which it didn't, like it was the strongest, like it was one of the strongest selling out the gate Final Fantasies ever. But if it had underperformed, that was possibly going to be the end of the series. So yeah, I'm really glad. I mean, we should all want games to sell well.
Yeah,
but I am particularly glad that this one did.
I hope that for the next one, or like if they get Hajime Tabata to make Final Fantasy 16, that he gets to kind of start from his own vision, you know, not to denigrate Tetsuya Nomura's work, but like it would be nice to know like this entire work was like his baby, you know, and like having that drama between Nomura and Tabata, like how much of it was his, how much of it wasn't, like what did he cut, what stayed.
Yeah.
I feel like that sort of hung over Final Fantasy 15. I don't know if positive or negative, like it's hard to say without really getting into the nitty gritty and finding out like how that shook out. But like just to say like, okay, 16, we're starting fresh. Tabata's on this game and he is just going, and that's it. Like I think that would be really cool to see.
Well, like nothing against Tetsuya Nomura at all, but I firmly believe that had he remained in charge of the project, 15 would probably never have come out.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just don't think that, and I don't think that's not a knock against Nomura. I feel like he was so overworked.
He has not delivered a game he directed since Kingdom Hearts 2.
Unbelievable.
Yes.
Unbelievable.
Dude can't close a game.
Like I almost don't believe we're ever actually going to play Kingdom Hearts 3 at this point. We're not playing it before 2019. I guarantee you that this game is not coming out.
Final Fantasy VII Remake Chapter 1 was supposed to be a quick turnaround. Like that's why they got CyberConnect. That's why they're breaking it into 3 separate games. Where's that game?
Yeah, well, when they broke it into 3 separate games, I was like, they're doing that because they want people to at least play some of it before 2021.
Yep,
that's why they're doing this. Otherwise, the game's never come out. Like that was the thing, right? Like at E3, I was just like everybody else. I was like, oh my god, this is a thing and it's real. But then when I calmed down, like my friend Brandon, he's on the podcast. He was in tears. Final Fantasy VII is his favorite game of all time. I was watching. I'm a Blackhawks fan, and the Stanley Cups were on, and I was like, "Fuck the Blackhawks." I was like, "I got to watch this." But then when I calmed down and I thought about it, I was like, "We will not be playing this game for the next 5 years." So why am I excited? Like I was like, why? People called that E3 the year of dreams. And God bless Michael Huber. He's a friend of the show. He's been on, both him and Kyle Bossman have been on this podcast. And I saw the reactions and I was like, I feel you, but we are not playing Shenmue 3 or Final Fantasy 7 Remake for the next 6 years. These games are not coming out before my son is in high school and he's 8. Okay, so like this, I have accepted this fact. We are not like, apparently 7 Remake was supposed to come out this year, and I'm like, no, that dude, no, that's not coming out this year. Come
One image of key art, like that's all we've gotten. And
that's all we've gotten in what, like a little less than a year, 8 months. We've gotten one piece of art, and some gameplay at PSX. Not this past one, but the one before that looked really choppy and really bad. So that was 2015, right? Was the year of dreams? That was E3 of dreams, 2015. Yep. Okay, so more than that. So it's been a year and a half since that reveal. We have gotten 5 minutes of gameplay at PSX 2015 and a piece of key art.
Yeah,
we're not playing this game before 2021, guys. I'm sorry. No. But we're not.
I am honestly starting to wonder if the Final Fantasy VII Remake is even going to come out for Xbox One and PlayStation 4.
I will be. So here's the thing. I'm surprised it's coming out for Xbox One at all.
I think Microsoft is surprised that there are games coming out for Xbox.
Well, technically, the Final Fantasy Remake, they say first on PS4. I don't know if that means it's ever coming to Xbox One.
Yeah,
but,
good point.
Sony lined that one up.
So, it's you have to laugh at it. I mean, it's nobody does this shit like Square Enix, right?
Right.
Nobody does this like. I mean, Kingdom Hearts 3 was announced in 2013.
Yep, 4 years ago.
2013. How much gameplay have we seen? We don't even know. Almost 4 years later, nobody knows not one world that is in Kingdom Hearts 3.
Oh, no,
Haley Joel Osment's going to be 40 when that game comes out.
There is one world that is confirmed.
Olympus. What is it?
They have admitted that you are going to be in Olympus again.
Great.
Hooray.
Cool.
Awesome.
I was telling Anthony that like we should just like Square Enix should just say, well, like, okay, if they can't fire him, just make him like Final Fantasy brand ambassador.
Yeah, put him in charge of Exvius.
Throw him up on stage when you need, like, hey, we got a new Final Fantasy game coming. Here's the trailer. And then just put him in a room full of, like, gothic curtains and gacked CDs. Like, and then just let him, I don't know, let him be weird.
So, here's the thing, like, the thing about Kingdom Hearts is that I was talking to a friend of mine, and he was like, I really want to see what they do with the story. And I'm like, nobody knows what the story of Kingdom Hearts is, dude.
I can totally. I can.
Stop. Like,
how much time do you have? I can do it. I can tell.
Hold my beer.
I mean, yeah.
Hold my beer. I can tell you the Kingdom Hearts story.
If you could, we're gonna do a separate podcast, and I want you to sit down and from point A to point B, lay out what is happening in Kingdom Hearts.
I'll do all the spinoffs too.
I'm saying it right now. If you can do that and make sense of it, I'll give you an hour. If you can do that and make sense of it, I will change my Twitter avatar to whatever you want for a month. If you can do this, I'm laying it all on the line right now.
Yeah, I can explain to you what a nobody is and where Sora's heart went and why Roxas exists and why Roxas isn't technically Sora, but he's also this other guy.
I already know what a nobody is.
I can do it.
It's Ian Moss. Anyway.
Whoa.
Oh.
I'm sorry. I can edit that out. But I'm not going to. But I'm still really sore about being banned from Twitter for 12 hours. It's really great on me. But no, right here we're locking it down. I want you to come back on, and if you can do this in 1 hour, I will change my Twitter avatar for a month.
Done.
To whatever you want.
I could tell you about Anselm and Zemnis, and this is
amazing. Dave, you're a witness.
No, I've heard him do this. So.
That does not make me feel good. But I'm going to do this because I want to hear this for myself. I want to hear this for myself. So we're going to bring you back on, and I want you to do this if you are willing. If you are willing to do this,
absolutely.
That would be entertaining as hell.
Way on board.
Well, guys, it has been an absolute pleasure talking with you. This was really awesome. We actually went 30 minutes over than what I intended, just because I was having such a good time. But I hope you guys enjoyed it.
Yeah, man, this was awesome. I love this.
This was great. I'm always willing to talk. Anytime somebody says I love Final Fantasy 15, like I want to pull you in a corner and be like, "Come talk to me." We need to have some coffee and talk. Because like if you read Gaff and you read Twitter, the game is trash. It sucks. Like, but really, it's an amazing game, and I just wonder, I wonder I wonder people who say, "Oh, this is the worst game ever played." I'm like, did perhaps around Graham Cracker slide into your PS4, and you're playing that instead? Because this must be a mistake. I mean, this game is. I am riding on the Final Fantasy 15 Defense Force train all the way to the station, and I'm proud of it. But anyway, guys, Anthony and Dave from Gamesradar, God, it was just a joy having you guys on.
Thanks for having us, man.
Absolutely, man. No, dude, it was my pleasure. And Dave, I hope to meet. I met Anthony at PAX, and I hope to run into you someday.
If you ever come up to Land in the Woods in Seattle, I'll be there at PAX West. So
I will be there as well.
Awesome.
I will be there as well. For anybody watching, you can always catch our podcasts Thursday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We got some really big guests coming on. We got some really cool stuff happening. We are going to have the developer of Chasm coming on, and we've also got Marty Sliva from IGN is going to come on. So a longtime fan of his, and I just ran into him at PAX after the panel with Susan. So that's cool. A lot of stuff coming up. We're throwing some interviews we did with devs up on the YouTube channel one day at a time. So over the next week. So please look forward to those. And don't forget to check us out next Thursday. Please like, comment, rate, subscribe, all that good jazz, and check out our website, superdeformedgamescast.com. And we'll talk to you guys later. Thanks for joining us.
Goodbye, everybody. Thanks for having us, John.
Bye, everybody.